Teonna has no one left to kill what happens next to Rainwater's 1923 ancestor. Finally, Teonna Rainwater is free from her enemies, with no one left to kill in 1923, raising questions about what will happen to her next. Since 1923's Season 1 ending, Teonna Rainwater has been on the run from her boarding school, where she killed 2 nuns. The 2 men chasing her were Father Renaud, her boarding school's headmaster, and Marshall Kent, a ruthless lawman who proved to be one of the Yellowstone franchise's most evil characters. Of course, the Yellowstone prequels connect to the main TV show through the Dutton family. 1883 saw them traveling across America to settle the ranch, while has 1923 shown the Duttons as established, wealthy property owners in Montana 4 decades later. Following the migration of families like the Duttons, 1923 picks up a major portion of Yellowstone's story, examining how Thomas Rainwater's ancestors and the Broken Rock Reservation came to be. 1923's Season 2, Episode 6, was packed with notable character deaths, 4 of which took place surrounding Teonna Rainwater in West Texas. Both of Teonna's hunters, Kent and Renaud, are killed in the episode, finally freeing her from their relentless pursuit. Tragically, their deaths also resulted in the deaths of Pete Plenty Clouds and Runs his horse, leaving Teonna all alone in Texas. She may be without enemies, but she's also without any allies, and it's hard to say how her story will continue. 1923 only has 1 episode remaining, with Episode 7 set to complete the story of the Prohibition-era Duttons. While we're hoping for a proper conclusion to the story, rather than the more abrupt ending to 1883, we may not see Teonna's story directly connected to anything related to Thomas Rainwater. That said, there are a few narrative elements we could speculate on. First, Runs his horse was the tribal leader of the Broken Rock Reservation and Teonna's father, so it's likely she'll at least look to return there in the final episode. As for how Teonna's story will lead to Thomas Rainwater, it's possible that she's pregnant with a son from Pete Plenty Clouds. In this case, she may use her last name due to the father passing away. The final elements to resolve are the law enforcement officers in Texas, like Marshal Mamie Fawcett, who might not be too thrilled to find a series of bodies left behind. This could give Teonna one last obstacle for 1923 Season 2 before allowing her to return home. The wind howled across the Montana plains, carrying the ghosts of the dead with it. Teonna Rainwater stood on the edge of a valley, her breath ragged, her body worn from the battles she had fought. The blood of her enemies had dried on her hands days ago, but the weight of what she had done pressed heavier than any wound. There was no one left to kill. Her tormentors lay in the dirt, the priests and nuns who had beaten her, humiliated her, tried to erase her name from history. They were gone. So what now? She turned to Hank's father, the old man who had taken her in after she fled the school. His face was carved from stone, unreadable, but his eyes held something close to understanding. He had seen vengeance before. He had seen what it could do to a person. "What will you do now, daughter?" he asked, his voice rough like the bark of an ancient tree. Teonna swallowed hard. She had no answer. The road ahead was empty, open. For so long, her only goal had been survival. Then revenge. Now she had no purpose beyond the next breath, the next step. "I don't know," she admitted. The old man nodded as if he expected as much. "Then you must listen. The land will tell you where to go." Teonna frowned. The land. She had spent too much time surrounded by stone walls, beaten down by men who claimed she was less than nothing. Did the land even remember her? Did it still know her name? The old man seemed to sense her hesitation. He gestured to the open plains. "The people will scatter soon. They will run, hide, or try to find new homes. You are strong, but you are alone. That is a dangerous thing. Teonna glanced at the horizon. The school had stolen her friends, her mother, her innocence. The war she had waged had left her with nothing but herself. Alone. A dangerous thing indeed. She breathed deeply, feeling the crisp air fill her lungs. The scent of sage and pine wrapped around her, familiar, grounding. If the land had an answer, she could not hear it yet. But she would. She had to. A new threat, a new journey. Days passed, then weeks. Teonna and the old man traveled together, moving in the shadows, avoiding the white men who still searched for her. They knew what she had done. They would not let her go so easily. One night, as they sat by a fire, the old man told her of a Lakota camp in the north, a place where people like her, people who had escaped the schools, the soldiers, the hunger, had gathered. They were waiting for something, or someone, to lead them. Teonna stared into the flames. A leader? Was that what she was now? She had been a fighter, a hunted animal, a ghost. But a leader? Your name will be known, the old man said. Your story will be sung by the children. But a story is not enough. The people need more. More. The word clung to her ribs, lodged in her throat. She had spent so long running, fighting. Now she was being asked to build. She thought of her father, of his strength, of Hank, who had died because he tried to protect her. She thought of the girls she had left behind, the ones who had not made it out of the school, who had died nameless and forgotten. I will go, she said at last. I will see this place. The old man nodded, satisfied. The gathering. The journey north was long and treacherous. White settlers had claimed much of the land, and every stranger was a potential threat. Teonna learned to move like a whisper, to listen for danger before it arrived. When they finally reached the camp, it was smaller than she had imagined. Maybe a dozen lodges, a few families. The people were tired, hungry, worn from years of suffering. They did not look like warriors. But they looked at her with something else. Hope. A woman approached, her face streaked with dirt and exhaustion. You are the one, she said simply. The girl who fought back. Teonna did not answer, but she did not deny it either. Another man spoke. They will come for us soon. Soldiers. They always do. Teonna clenched her fists. She had escaped one massacre. She would not stand by and watch another. We must be ready, she said. The battle for survival. She trained them in the ways of war. Not the war of armies, but the war of the hunted. How to move unseen, how to strike fast and vanish. They had few weapons, but they had the land. And the land, she realized, had never forgotten her. When the soldiers came, they did not find a broken people. They found ghosts in the trees, shadows in the grass. The people fought, not for revenge, but for survival. And they won. Word spread of the victory. More came. Survivors, outcasts, those who had nowhere else to go. Teonna watched as the camp grew, as children laughed, as mothers sang. She was not alone anymore. She was not just a fighter. She was something more. A protector. A leader. A legend. A future worth fighting for. Years passed, and Teonna's name became more than a whisper. She was the woman who had defied death, who had built something out of nothing. Some called her a warrior. Some a spirit. But she was simply Teonna Rainwater. And she was not done yet.